Hey everyone, you're listening to the full Timeout. I'm your host, Christian Charisma. The defending champs returned to action last night, making their official return in regular season play, defeating the Los Angeles Lakers 107-92. They're now 47-18 on the season, and they also extended their winning streak to 5 games. Here to help us break it all down is Stephen Loung, NBA editor for Sportsnet. Stephen, how fun has it been for you to see the Raps back on the court and even just the NBA as a whole be back on TV?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Like it's been what 4.5 months, almost 5 months since the last time we saw any basketball being played. Like the last time the Raptors played, coming into like a Saturday night's game was I believe 145 days, and it's just been this restart. I had a lot of doubts that it could work. I was very skeptical about it, but it's been fantastic. It almost feels like this is the NBA equivalent of March Madness in a way, with how many games are on every single day. And I mean, if you're an NBA fan, this is like Christmas, right? This is like heaven.
Right. I'm just watching the concept of just watching basketball in August is such a foreign and surreal feeling. I know we had a little bit of a taste of that, actually, a big taste of that last summer, playing all the way deep into July or June. LeBron referring to it as a AAU tournament. I guess it's just really for any sports fan with the NHL coming back, NBA being here, all MLB on. It's been heaven for sports fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unless you're you're exclusively an NFL fan, which hasn't got started yet, there's really is something for everyone. Although obviously, the Major League Baseball seems to be in a little bit of trouble, with them opting not to go with the bubble model. But hopefully, as I am also a baseball fan, like hopefully, they can get things sorted out, and they can finish their season as well.
So, returning back to the Raptors, Stephen, they go on a 13-0 run to begin the game. Toronto was running on a lot of energy. I know there were a lot of question marks headed into the game, especially with the Lakers and how well they played against the Clippers. Fans were wondering, media were wondering how we'd stack up against Los Angeles and LeBron. And I think it really couldn't have gone any better. Again, with that 13-0 run, a lot of fun highlights, a lot of high moments. But my favorite was when OG Anunoby confidently took Anthony Davis into the paint, and he flashed some of that, dribbles and handles that he's been working on, and went with that scoop layup for the score. Steven, how impressed have you been with OG since the Raptors have come back to play, and with his overall performance last night against the Lakers?
Yeah, OG was probably, to me, the most interesting storyline heading into the official restart, just because during the scrimmages, we saw that, I guess I should say, before the scrimmages, we had been hearing about how OG had like tightened up his handle, and that was always something that everyone identified as a key thing that he needed to work on to kind of take his game to another level. And then we saw flashes of it during the scrimmages, and then it felt like everything came together against Los Angeles last night. I mean, you mentioned that one-on-one kind of move he did against AD. I think he spun off him
Mm-hmm.
for the scoop layup. And the fact that he now can confidently put the ball on the floor and make one or two moves, it just adds a whole new dimension to his entire game, right? Because obviously he came into the league and kind of has lived up to that as like a kind of like above average 3 and D player, right?
Right.
Sin can put the ball on the floor and kind of create off the dribble a little bit, right? Like he can kind of kick out to open shooters when he gets in the lane, or go straight to the rack for the finish, right? It's opened up everything for him. So all of a sudden, when guys kind of close out to him, when the ball kicks out to him, they can't just close out to him, go all out and play for the shot, right? You have to be a little wary of him putting the ball on the floor and taking it to the hole with confidence now. And I believe, like, because of that, because that's now in the scouting report, his entire offensive game has just opened up entirely. Like, I mean, we saw it last night, 8 of 9 from the field, 23 points. Uh, in that a little exchange with LeBron, right, when he's kind of going shot for shot with him, and he's open for three. There are times where I think in the past guys would just play him for the shot all out because they knew he was going to they knew he was just going to take that three, and that is what he ended up doing in those cases last night. But it's now in the back of guys' minds where it's like, oh man, this guy could put the ball on the floor and he can get in the paint. So like I don't know how to close on him properly. Like, I don't know what he's doing anymore. And I think this is a huge development for the Raptors because I think one of the biggest questions for them coming into this restart was like, yes, we know like Pascal is their number one scoring option. Lowry, I mean, we saw what he did last night. Like he can be a dynamite scorer as well. But who is that third guy, or maybe can be that second guy if one of those two first guys I just mentioned don't have it going, and it seems like OG can now be thrown like reliably into the mix as a very strong tertiary option, along with the likes of like a Norm Powell or Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, well said. I mean, with Kawhi's departure, there was such a gaping hole there at the three spot, and naturally OG would be the obvious fit there, and for him to kind of again implement even just a little bit of creativity off the dribble, makes the Raptors offense exponentially better. You already touched on Kyle Lowry. I think we definitely have to dive a little bit more into uh, what he brought to the table last night. There's always been an endless amount of chatter, Stephen, about Kawhi no longer being on the team, and for those that have followed the team, before Kawhi and then have stayed with the team after Kawhi, we know what the Raptors team have looked like in close games, in very difficult, slow-paced, half-court setting games. The type of atmosphere that you'd find in the playoffs. We've seen the team kind of crumble in those scenarios, and Kawhi really changed the game for a lot of us during last season's championship run. And so when we were in similar moments last night, it was Kyle who kind of stepped up and carried the team. What stood out to you last night in regards to his performance?
Oh, like that, as to quote Nick Nurse from last night, that was vintage Kyle, right? I think people maybe forget that when Kyle Lowry kind of first arrived in Toronto, and particularly like I believe it was his second season when they first made the playoffs with him, and this entire run of success with of the Raptors began. Like Lowry was the clutch shot maker for the team. Like yes, like DeMar would be given opportunities to kind of win games, but Lowry was more the reliable guy because remember in that first playoff series, it was Kyle who was given the opportunity to drive to the hole and unfortunately got blocked by Paul Pierce. But he was the guy who the Raptors gave the ball to. And like remember, like this guy has been a hell of a scorer for a very long time, and he kind of took a step back for the sake of the team last season, but he's back to just being Kyle Lowry, and he just seems to get better and better. On like Father Time seems to defy him. It feels like, and like we saw what you can do. We saw like the fullest repertoire of Kyle Lowry last night. Obviously taking charges, excellent defense, the amazing shot making. Like his 3-point stroke seems to get better every single season, and like those signature like dives to the basket, like there's those moments where it seems like he has the ball in his hand and he's saying, "Screw you! I'm just going to score. I don't care if I'm the smallest guy on the floor here."
Right. Now, a few more questions. With all the positives that we took from last night, let's quickly talk about one of the areas for improvement with the Raps. As great as the win was last night, the bench did struggle, and we know Nurse will go with a strict 8 maybe 9-man rotation, depending on outside shooting, struggles from various people on the court. But that trio last night of Powell, Serge Ibaka, and Terrence Davis, who saw a majority of the bench minutes, they struggled to get much going all night. What did you see?
So yeah, I actually asked Nurse last night about kind of like why he ran such a tight rotation after it seems like one of the strengths of the Raptors would be the fact that like they have all these guys who can suddenly emerge in the rotation, like a Chris Boucher or a Hollis Jefferson, although it looked like he tweaked his ankle a little bit in the middle of the game there, or a Matt Thomas, right? Like you can go a little deeper than you may have at first expected. So I asked him why he didn't do that. And his response to me was pretty fair, right? Just like we're just gonna go with guys who we think have it that night, and it makes sense. So like I believe like the way the rotation was used last night is kind of the way a Nurse and the coaching staff always envisioned the rotation being used in the first place, where you have this top 7 group of guys that are going to get the lion's share of minutes, and because they've earned it, like they're the veterans, they're the established core of the team. And then for a Davis or a Hollis Jefferson or a Matt Thomas or a Chris Boucher, like minutes are going to be a little harder to find. Like you're going to have to be on a real heater in order to kind of get more playing time. So in regards to your question specifically, I mean, like, yeah, the bench didn't have a great night, but at the same time, like the Raptors just have so much depth that like within that top 7, that it doesn't really matter if let's say a Norm Powell can't get uncorked. But I don't think there's any cause for concern there right now.
Right, exactly. Again, just a great start to the Raptors' return to play. I know they have the Heat up next tomorrow afternoon, a little bit of a Monday matinee. What are some things, before we let you go, what are some things that Raptors fans should look out in preparation for their matchup with the Heat?
So obviously the attention, like people know about Jimmy Butler, people know about Bam Adebayo, but the thing that's most interesting for me in that matchup will be how the Raptors defend Duncan Robinson, the Heat sharpshooter. The 2-man game between him and Bam is one of the best in the entire NBA, and it'll be interesting to see how the Raptors like this great Raptors defense defends the wrinkles in that, because like Robinson, he's a great shooter. And if he gets hot, like they can just kind of ride him, and like he's just usually the forgotten man just because he isn't as sexy a name.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, Steven, thanks for joining me on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Toronto take on the Heat tomorrow. Tip-off will just be after 1:30 p.m. We'll once again break down the results from that here on the Full Timeout. Until then, I'm Christian Charisma, and thanks for listening.